Live. Ladies and gentlemen,
Okay.
welcome back to the number one most valuable real estate community in existence. We've got joining us Mr. Jacob and Adrian today. I'm going to start the stage, y'all, in a second here. We got so much to unpack and talk about today. These two are absolutely crushing it in making huge waves in the industry. I'm going to make that announcement now. Man, pleasure to have you guys on. This is long overdue.
Yeah, thanks for having
Yes,
us,
sir.
John.
So we'll wait a little bit to get some people in here to hear the story. Man, this is really insane, man. I can't wait to break this down and talk about just how much you guys have accomplished in such a short amount of time. Number one, and break down just the fact that where you guys started and where you are today, and just talk about the whole journey about the ups, the downs, the difficulties, the trials, the tribulations, everything. I want to really talk about the reality of real estate in this podcast.
Yeah, man. It's a lot. There's ups and downs for sure. So
We'll go over all of it.
Awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be one hell of a podcast. Definitely take this time to invite somebody you think would benefit from being in proximity with us. Send them that link, discord.gg/REI Rev. I'm going to drop a specific link you can share with people to actually get them into this room. Well, without further ado, let's open it up. Who is Jacob, Snakeosaur, and Adrian?
Oh man, so I am 20 years old. I currently live in Macon, Georgia, and Adrian also lives here in Macon, Georgia. I was going to college, community college in California, Bay Area, California. That's where I'm from. And I was going for liberal arts because I had no idea what I wanted to do. So the next step was let's just do liberal arts and hopefully I'll fall in love with something, right? And I found myself just waking up, going to school, not really super motivated at all because I'm just sitting there. I'm like, I don't have a long term goal here. I don't have any like real passions or motivations. And then one day, I've always been into like flipping stuff. So in high school, I would flip iPhones. I would buy an iPhone for cheap, fix the screen, sell it. I was always into flipping stuff. I would buy something on Facebook Marketplace, maybe use it for a bit, sell it for higher. So that's always kind of been like a bug I've had. I've always loved to flip stuff. And one day I scrolled past I think it was a Zach Ginn video, and you know how he always makes it sound, guys, here's how to make $10,000 in the next 2 weeks, right? And I was like, there's no way this is real. So I started watching those Jerry Norton videos, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, this looks like it could be legit. And I started looking into it. No way it's this easy. And I ended up going on Google. I think I went on Discord, and I typed in like, real estate wholesaling Discord. I'm like, there's got to be a community for people that do this. And I found REI Rev, and that was in 2022. And I just started soaking up the information like a sponge. I just started, hopping in here. I'm like, no way, I can just hop in a voice channel, and there's people actually doing the business. There's people actually providing value in here. And I just started soaking up every bit of information I could until eventually I said, all right, I'm just going to go do it. I'm just going to stop waiting around. I'm going to go do it. And I bought a cold calling list. I just grabbed Batch Dialer and I grabbed like a list. And I watched a YouTube video to decide where to get my list from. I watched another Zach Ginn video. He was like 50 underrated markets. And literally, John, this is why I think that nothing in life is not planned, or I say life is scripted all the time. This is what I tell people. Because I had no reason to pick Macon, Georgia. I just picked it on a whim. Like, seriously, I just saw it. I was like, this looks like a cool, small town in the southeast. So I picked it, and I got a lead. It was a really crappy lead. It was like the guy wanted 10,000, and I thought maybe I could wholesale it for 15. It was a really bad lead. He wasn't even that motivated, but I ended up reaching out. Anybody do business in Macon, Georgia? And that's when finally me and Adrian connected. I remember the first phone call I had with him. I was visiting a friend in Phoenix, Arizona, and we just got on the phone and he said, "Hey man, this is a market where, the spreads aren't that big, but you can stack up a few of them." That's what he said. You can stack up a few of them, but the spreads aren't that big. But let's start working together. And from there, it just snowballed, man. It just snowballed and snowballed until eventually we ended up getting a seller finance deal under contract. And from there, we were just like, hey, man, why would we wholesale this? Let's just move in. Let's do this business and let's go all in and we'll flip this house over the course of like a year and let's just do it. So I packed up my car last year, November, and I drove 2,700 miles across the United States. I said, screw it. I'm not going to college. Let's do it. And that's the situation that we're in right now. Adrian, kind of let him know, because Adrian was doing stuff a while before me, and he had kind of a different come up than me. So Adrian, let him know like how you started.
Yeah, nah, basically, I just started right out of high school, and I was a little bit more established. I guess whenever I met Jacob, and he kind of connected with me through REI Rev, um, and then kind of one thing led to another. We started doing marketing together, and slowly, like it was real slow at first, like barely get a deal here and there, maybe a deal every 2 months, you know. And then we started doing like, text message marketing, cold calling, anything we could do to get a deal. And eventually, yeah, we made enough money from wholesale deals that we bought a house together from a lead we got from a text message campaign, and it was a seller finance deal that we structured, and then we ended up buying it, and he moved across the country, and then we're basically just living in it and renovating it at the same time, closing wholesale deals.
That is
Yeah.
ridiculous to hear. You guys met on REI Rev and have been absolutely crushing it since, man. That is insane. Adrian,
Yeah. I
break it
mean,
down for us, man. How did you get into real estate? We heard about Jacob and how he got into real estate. What were you doing before wholesaling, and how did you end up in REI Rev?
Um, hmm. Now basically, I was like working for like Geico, like work based learning through school, and then basically like the summer after I graduated, they were like, yeah, all you guys are no longer like working for us. You're basically like let go. Like you can still work for us, but you got to reapply and everything. And I was like, nah, I ain't finna go back and do that. I'm finna try and find some business model to go after. And everybody does their research on all the dumb shit like SMMA and drop shipping and all that stupid stuff, right? But basically, I'd already had a like knowledge from I've been watching like real estate videos and bigger pockets for like years, so I already had like some knowledge in real estate, and then I kind of just went for wholesaling, and then one thing led to another. After I honestly don't even know how I got in REI Rev. Maybe maybe Sko invited me. I think Sko invited me. I was like in some other discords or something, and yeah, basically, I mean, that's basically how I got into real estate.
That's incredible, man.
yeah. And John, that's another thing is we're both real estate agents. So we have our licenses, right? But we choose to do wholesaling instead as a primary thing because, I mean, just for me at least, I look at being a real estate agent full time, and I'm looking at this and I'm saying, if I start doing this and I build my sphere of influence in one market, I am pretty much I'm stuck there. Like I can't move somewhere else. So I could have gone the real estate agent route, in San Jose, which is where I'm from, Bay Area, and I could have probably, cleared six figures because you close like, three deals there a year and you've made six figures. But I just, I don't want to tie myself down like that. I know Adrian, he has done a lot of agent stuff over here on the investment side. So he always is working with investors to do agent stuff like that. But yeah, we've never really been like, putting on a suit and tie and walking buyers through properties. That's never really been our thing. We prefer to get creative with it and do wholesaling. So
Hey,
been
well,
our
I
thing.
just think that that's super cool to see that you guys are licensed agents and you've actually decided that wholesaling isn't something that you want to just, shit on. You actually wanted to learn about how you could implement it and how you can make that work for you. And I mean, the fact that you guys are doing this like virtually too, right? It's not just in your backyard, right? It's now virtual, or where are you guys marketing at?
So we mainly market in Georgia still. We haven't. I know that people always say like, "Oh man, like you can start going nationwide with it." We haven't really found a reason to yet, and we're not like opposed to it at all. There's no. We've always talked about different markets that we'd be interested. Like, I think we were talking about Bowling Green, Kentucky, or something.
Mm-hmm.
Other markets, we have no reason like not to. But I think the main reason is because our marketing strategy has not been inbound; it's been outbound. So when you have like inbound leads, they're going to charge you more based on, a smaller market, right? But everything we've been doing so far has been outbound. So, I mean, we already have like a lot of connections with attorneys. We already know how the process works. We haven't found a reason to go outside of Georgia yet, but we're not at all opposed to that. I think Adrian is also not at all opposed to that either.
Yeah.
But that's insane. I mean, just to show like how well you can do focusing on just one market. I think a lot of people get overwhelmed with thinking like they've got to do something nationwide, they got to be spread out across the board. But there's a lot of riches in the niches, and you guys are proof of that to say, look, they dialed in, their local market. I mean, Jacob packed up his shit and went from California to Georgia for this opportunity, and you guys are crushing it, man. This is insane.
Yeah, and it wasn't a whopping success like I wish it was.
Sure.
It was there have been a lot of ups and downs. Like when we got here, we had a very, very bad estimation of how much this house that we were living in would cost to renovate. We severely lowballed it. So, well, actually, let me go even further back. So we moved here, and our intention was because we were doing pretty good with the launch control stuff, the SMS marketing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we thought we're gonna scale it up. We're gonna renovate this house, and we're gonna do both at the same time. That did not go as planned because literally the moment I moved in was exactly the time when they started adding the opt out language to the SMS stuff, right? So that kind of fell out, and we stopped nurturing our wholesale business, and our time got consumed by like swinging hammers and putting tile down. That is very time consuming when you're doing it yourself. And eventually we got to a point where we pretty much didn't have like enough of a budget left to keep on wholesaling consistently. So I literally took like my last bit of budget and I just searched. I'm like, who can give me the best deal on decent marketing? We found I don't know if Drew is in here, but he connected us with this like agency. They're called the Dial Force,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like it's some Egyptian cold caller agency. They do a decent job. And we just ended up doing that, and literally the whole month it was dry. We were just following up with these leads, following up with these leads. And Adrian comes up to me one day. He goes, "Yo, guess who came crawling back?" And it's always the leads that come crawling back, right? They came crawling back, and it was like a huge, huge spread. So we ended up putting them under contract, and we've just been working on that lead since then. And now we're just looking to get back into marketing, see what the next step is. So yeah, there was definitely a huge, pit that we were in as far as our finances. But since this deal closed, thank goodness, we're kind of back in it, and we're looking to get back into wholesaling. So
Well, I think that's the reality of this business is that, it's not as predictable as people really want it to be. There's a lot of stuff, there are a lot of variables. I mean, you guys are seeing that firsthand, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. I mean, you'll see it like everybody talks about wholesaling. It's like this golden opportunity, no money down, like you're gonna get a 10K check, making a few phone calls. But that's just simply not the reality of this business. And I mean, people that are really committed to this and in the trenches really see like you can go a long time with no deals, leads dry up, sellers back out. I mean, buyers disappear. I mean, that's the reality of this business. And when you get that check to close, that especially is a big one, I'm so happy to hear you guys close on a banger. It really changes the outlook, and also what's possible too, because now you have more opportunity to change, the way that you're marketing. I know that you were doing SMS before to generate some leads, and also, the cold calling stuff. But I'm
Hmm.
telling you, man, there's just nothing better than the direct inbound stuff. Like when people are reaching out to you for uh, an offer, those are the best leads to talk to. And you're gonna still run through people that still want retail or close to retail, but depending on how you get set up, you're gonna be talking to a lot of people that are in sticky situations that can really benefit from like a creative offer. So man, this is just the beginnings for
100%.
you guys, and I'm so excited to see you guys have already structured a seller finance, and are actively renovating it and living in there. So that's crazy to see that you guys have gone from wholesaling deals to actually owning something right now, and now you're in an amazing spot right now where you can really reinvest in your business and your marketing and double down.
Yeah, it's awesome, and at the same time, it's like you were saying, people don't really talk about the reality of it's so feast or famine in this business. It's so feast or famine, and you will. I literally I said I was quitting like a month ago. I said I was done. I was ready to literally. I got a job actually, and I quit that job in a matter of weeks because I realized I hate working a job too. So it's so feast or famine, and you have to be prepared to just like be really down on your luck for multiple months at a time potentially, especially when you're first starting out. I mean, I've heard of people who they don't get a deal for a year plus, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You're gonna have to grind for the deals, and eventually you're gonna get one that's gonna make it all worth it. And I think looking back now,
For
I'm
sure.
looking back with a mindset of how do I do, how do I risk mitigate where I'm actually looking into now like um, land contracts, executory contracts. I want to do things where I'm minimizing the amount of variables that can go wrong during a transaction. Because with a novation, which was this deal that we did, it was a novation. You file a notice of interest on the property, which is cool, but that seller can 100% back out at any point. Um, there's not much you can do, right? You can tell them you have a notice of interest on the property, but at the end of the day, they're on the deed. So I kind of want to get into stuff where I'm more in control of the deed, because when you don't, you kind of fall into this pit of doing whatever the seller wants at all times. um, you're kind of gonna simp for the seller a lot of the time, because we literally ended up last weekend reorganizing a storage unit for this seller. We drove all the way up, offered to reorganize her storage unit. It took us 5 hours in like 95-degree direct sun with no water bottles. It was a disaster. But man, you do what it takes to get the deal closed. So I kind of want to start focusing on things where maybe I'm doing a takedown deal and I'm just buying it, putting work into it, relisting it. I want to look into maybe the installment method. Maybe not exactly the installment method because I have my gripes with those people. But things where I'm more in control of the deed, uh, I'm looking to get interested in for sure.
Yeah.
And then Adrian's also been exploring. He's been telling me, dude, I want to go deeper into marketing, not wider. I want to go deeper into marketing. I want to go direct to motivation. And he's been having a decent amount of success with that. Adrian, do you want to
Yeah.
kind of let him know what you've been doing recently?
No, basically, um, this is kind of what I like something I've been doing outside of working with Jacob. But basically, after we kind of wrapped up that cold calling campaign that we just closed the $72,000 novation from, um, I kind of stepped away from like the outbound marketing because I just felt like it was a lot of mentally taxing conversations, just seller saying, "You called me, what's your offer?" Like not real motivation there. Yes, you will close deals if you run your KPIs, do the daily, put in the daily work and work your leads, right? But I just started going like directly to motivation here locally in Macon. I did like a deep dive on pre-foreclosures probably for like a week and a half, 2 weeks, just learning everything about it. And within like less than 30 days, they got 4 deals on their contract, and 3 of them are subject to. And here in Macon, well, like in the middle Georgia area, that were in pre-foreclosure, and I'm looking to get a couple of these closed out. I've already bought one house last month that was about to go to auction. I got paid $500 to buy it, and there's like over $100,000 in equity in it. So I started going direct to motivation with pre-foreclosures, and then I'm about to start targeting probates as well. People who file probate, I'm gonna try and reach out to them the same week that they filed it with the courts.
That's awesome. What is the way that you're finding these pre foreclosures?
Real simple, just Zillow. If you go on Zillow, you hit filter and then auction, and you can do by newest. It'll show you the houses that are coming up to auction. And in Georgia, it's the first Tuesday of every month, the auction date. And what I do is I go door knock them with about like 10 to 15 days before the auction, where they really have to make a decision, like what are they going to do? Are they really motivated? Like they're literally about to lose the house. And I just go to their house and I tell them like, look, what can I do to help? And
Yeah.
it's been great.
John, let me tell you, man, like I'm not the kind of guy that likes to go door knocking, but when he told me about this, it literally it's almost magic. He'll call me, he'll be like, yo, I'm about to knock this door. Watch. Give me 15 minutes. He'll go knock it. I get a call 15 minutes later. Bro, red hot lead. I have them under contract. I'm like, what in the world? So there's
Yeah, it's crazy.
even if you're just starting out and like you're in your local market, you don't need to be spending tens of thousands of dollars. If you have enough motivation and you have the skills, I think that's the biggest thing he was telling me about is you really have to have good conversation skills like in person and figure out what are these people's problem. But yeah, man, like you can seriously go door knock these people and it's magical the amount of deals he's been getting. So he's been killing it for sure from doing those.
That's incredible,
Mhm.
man. I know that door knocking is something that Bob was talking about on the show a lot. You know, to actually be in front of people that have that motivation. But I'm really excited, man. I'm happy to hear that that's really working. That's insane. One of the things that I'm seeing, especially, you know, and tell me what you guys are seeing too. But like in terms of just offering cash offers, anybody that's hearing about wholesaling and they're just hearing that that's the only strategy, just offering cash offers, ARV times zero point 0.7 minus repairs minus my fee, all of those individuals are going to get blown out of the water here. There's no room for it, and I'll
Yeah,
tell you
for
why.
sure.
It's
Mm-hmm.
because what we're seeing right now with in terms of these interest rates is like even conventional buyers, home owners, owner occupants are making offers on properties lower than what the sellers are looking to walk away with. Sellers are buying properties at prices where they owe more than they could actually sell their properties for.
Mhm.
And to be able to structure an opportunity and an offer for a seller where they can benefit in terms of walking away with some sort of compensation at closing or even breaking even. Because a lot of these sellers that I've been seeing and that I've been getting on these leads, because of solar, because of their mortgage, if they were to go and
Yeah.
sell to a owner occupant, somebody who's willing to pay the most amount of money for a property, they're still writing a
Loser.
check at closing.
Yep.
They're still writing a check to cover the cost of the agent's commission and the debt that they owe on that property. And so
Yeah.
that's what I love about the creative side of all of this is that I see how it's so beneficial and I see why it's so essential now. Maybe a year ago when the interest rates were lower, you know, we could have been making offers like that and anybody would snatch it up because the cost of money was so low. But what we're seeing right now, you have to be different. You have to have some sort of resource to offer to these sellers. There has to be some sort of benefit for these people that 50 cents on the dollar cash offers just aren't cutting it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But
100%.
I would argue like right now in today's market, if you don't at least know how to structure like a basic subject to or have half the brain to partner with somebody that knows like what they're doing creatively, then you're definitely going to be behind, especially with interest rates being a lot higher, people being upside down on their houses. There's still going to be motivation there, but there's a lot of people that have those 3 or 4% interest rates and they're not able to sell, or they have very little equity.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said about the greater like I genuinely think that wholesaling in general is much more difficult now than it was 2 years ago. And I'm sure there's a variety of factors that contribute to that. The outbound marketing has gotten more difficult. They're cracking down on SMS. They're cracking down on ringless voicemails. It's a lot harder. So you have to have, ways to get around the conventional way of doing things. You're not going to be able to just sling cash offers. I got away with maybe like 1 or 2 of those, but yeah, most of my deals, they've either been novations or seller finance or something. But yeah, 100% John, I totally agree.
Yeah, and I mean, it's crazy to see, just like, especially for the people that have been a part of the community for a while. I mean, I think you guys have been in here at least 2 years now, and to see kind of like, where we were at and the types of conversations we were having, 2 years ago versus where the conversations are at today, it's all moving in the direction of creatively being able to solve people's problems. Like 50 cent on the dollar cash offers, running and gunning, shooting off the hip, going on market, off market, regardless, is just not it's not going to be as effective as being an individual who has these types of creative solutions for sellers with little to no equity to benefit from accepting your offer. That's the number one thing, is how does somebody on the receiving side of the offer benefit, right? And being able to explain that to the seller, I think, is so critical. And I'm seeing it. I literally just got off the phone with the seller like an hour ago. They've got a 2.6% interest rate. They have a dream home, right? So they have the motivation. And I want to touch on this in a second here about why the motivation is so important. But they have a motivation that they found their dream home. They want to move, right? So they've got a timeline. They can't afford to list it on the market, hope that they're going to get a price that they're looking for, when in reality they're going to go price reduction after price reduction until they take whatever they can get from the market. And they still got to pay that agent their commission. And the solar on their house, it's eating up all their equity. So they're probably going to be writing a check. And I think a lot of sellers are recognizing just the reality of this market right now, because they're going and they're listing with agents. And that's the way that you get the most amount for your property, right? Is to go and list it and try to sell it to somebody else and want to live in it. But even people that want to live in these properties, they can't offer sellers what they need to even walk away break even. And that's just the reality of the situation that we're in right now. And agents don't generally have enough information to know how to structure creative offers to sellers that actually benefit sellers and also their buyers, because you can save a lot of time for your buyer to have to go and get qualified from a lender. You can save them on interest depending on the type of offer that you can work out and negotiate. And
Yep.
what I'm seeing is, if you can really learn how it is you can structure these types of creative offers, you're going to be unbeatable. Regardless of what type of market you're in, you're always going to have a solution for somebody. Cash might not be the option right now because of the climate of the market, but creative definitely works. It works for the seller because they would be writing a check at closing, but if they decide to work with you, they're going to be getting paid. How is that possible? Yes, where do I sign? Right? And then this buyer, because that seller has that lower interest rate, you can even tack on interest on their pre-existing interest and make the difference. And that's what I'm actually trying to learn with Matt. And I'm bringing him these leads and I'm trying to show everybody this process. And there's so many different ways for you to make money. It's not just about trying to assign to a fix and flipper or an investor or somebody that's interested in buying. You can assign these deals directly to owner occupants now, guys. Like, it gets so much cheaper than these 50 cent on the dollar cash offers. And I love that Adrian is really going after the motivation, because I agree. I believe that is the most important factor in finding a seller that is actually going to be able to do business with you, is if they are really motivated to make a decision in the next 30 to 45 days or not.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. The old ways are old news. Like, everybody's getting blasted with wholesalers now. Most leads that I'm talking to, I'm not the first person to contact them. So you have to make yourself different. You have to have I love James Jones came on here the other week or other month or whatever. I listened to that one. And he always talked about, you have to have a winning product. You have to have a product. You have to have a product. Is subject to your product. Go with that. Get a pitch. Get a good pitch. Learn it in depth. Is Novation your product? That's been my product for the past year. Learn it, do it. Is seller finance your product? You have to have something that's going to make you different because everybody is slinging cash offers. All right, you're not going to be different by slinging a cash offer. So if you can tell them, hey, I'm going to put money in your pocket, how are you going to do that? Just like you said, sign right here, I'll sign right there. You're going to put money in my pocket all day. So you have to make yourself different in this market. You have to. And another thing is, I'm trying to learn how to get around. I kind of want your take on this, John. How in the world do you get around these agents who are, they're 40, 50 years old? They are not as hip to creative finance, seller finance, all these different ways of, making a deal work. They just think that you're trying to scam them or whatever. I've had multiple agents where I don't even think they presented my offer to the seller. They might tell me they do, but I have no confidence that they're actually presenting my offer to the seller. So what is your strategy for getting around these agents that aren't wise to the subject to pitch, aren't wise to the seller finance pitch, even when it's in their seller's best interest to go down that path?
That's a really great question because that's something that I was actually actively dealing with on one of the deals that we actually live streamed. And the number one thing is trying to get on a conference call with the seller. You want to be direct on the line with the seller. And a lot of agents,
Mm,
they want to ask you all sorts of questions and they think that, they're going to just off of one conversation or one email be able to present an offer, a creative offer, and it's simply not going to work like that. I spent probably 20 minutes with an agent on the phone today and she was asking me because there was a FISBO listing, is there anything we could do for this person? And I broke it down, man, because once you have enough time in the game, you're going to realize, especially when it comes to FISBO, people typically list their house for sale by owner for one of two reasons. Number one, they have no equity, or number two, they want too much. They're greedy. They don't want to pay any sort of commission to anybody, and they want to walk away with the most amount of money. And those are not the types of sellers you're going to be doing business with, regardless. Whatever product you have, those are not the types of sellers you're going to work with. But the FISBOs that list their property because they don't know about real estate, they don't have any equity, and so they can't afford to list with an agent. Those are FISBO sellers that you could potentially work with. Um,
yeah.
and so when it comes to an agent, being that gatekeeper, the only thing that I could really say is you got to get on the phone with the seller. You have to get on the phone with the seller, and I've worked with Matt on a deal where an agent was kind of being the gatekeeper, and we went direct to the seller. We still compensated the agent, but we went direct to the seller. And I would also just say, keep an eye on that lead. Keep an eye on that listing because they're either going to sell or that listing's going to expire. And if it expires, it's free game. You got to go direct to the seller. You got to figure out how to get in front of that seller because even if the agent is on board to present the offer, there's never going to be somebody like you who can actually get on the phone and answer that seller's question and also deliver that confidence that you have in your offer.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. That's really awesome because I almost feel like as the investor who's coming in with a solution, you in a way have a moral obligation to make sure that the seller hears what you have to say because a lot of the time these agents will actually convince their seller. And I could go on and on about real estate agents. I cannot stand 9 out of 10 agents that I talk to. I can't stand it. This is why I go off market. I have so much respect for people that do, the on market model. I can't do it. But you have a moral obligation in a way to get these offers in front of these sellers because a lot of the time their agent will tell them to accept an offer where they're writing a check at closing, losing money at closing. They will convince them to do that because as the seller, you're looking at this agent, you're trusting them to be the real estate professional. So if they tell you, hey man, there's no other option, there could be 20 options, but they're going to listen to their agent. So yeah, getting them on a conference call. That's I'm going to start trying to use that now. Do you just kind of say, hey, this is a pretty complicated subject. Do you think we could get on the phone with the seller? Like, how do you kind of let the agent do that? Because I feel like a lot of agents might be kind of wary of you getting on the phone with the seller.
Yeah, I mean, just reassuring them that, look, I'm not here to take you out of the deal or backdoor you in any way. Like, I want to make sure that you're compensated for listing this property, but I also need to make sure that I'm speaking to the seller and I'm relaying the information that I need to with them and that I can also answer their questions. That's pretty huge. And then, if they give you pushback to the point where it's like they're just not going to do it, you got to move on, or you got to go direct to the seller. But
Yeah.
that's the best you can really do. I'm talking to an agent. I got to follow up with him today. I appreciate we spoke on this because I got to follow up with him today. Called him about a different property in Spartanburg. One of the other agents that had that property originally left the brokerage. I don't know if she got fired or if she left. But then he took on the property. I asked him to talk to the sellers and see, where they were at, because they're not going to get an offer where they're walking away with any money any other way. This is their only option.
Yep.
And they haven't recognized that, or maybe they have and they just want to see what the market offers. I think that just because, sellers are looking at real estate through a completely different lens than we do. We're really investors. We really get up in here. We talk about real estate all day. We're looking at deals. We're talking to homeowners. We're talking to buyers. We're seeing what's really happening in the market all the time. A traditional homeowner, they list a property. They don't really know what's going on. They just think that there's going to be some magic way that because it's listed for sale, there's going to be someone that just loves their house, falls in love with their house, and buys it on promotion for way more than it's actually worth. And, I think the only wake-up call to that nightmare is time. People recognize after it's been sitting for so long that, hey, this probably is not going to sell at the price that I'm looking to sell it at. I either have to write a check or I've got to explore what are my other options. But like you were saying, some of these agents are not even presenting their other options. And, in situations like that, you got to get creative, whether that's direct mail or a phone call. You got to get in front of the seller. You got to get in front of the seller.
Yeah, and it's a problem. It is, because when you're becoming an agent, they tell you about these fiduciary duties, and you go out as an agent. It's almost as if nobody's holding you accountable. We've reported agents, nothing happens. We've reported them to their broker, nothing happens. So don't expect these agents to act as they should. Unfortunately, 9 out of 10 times, they might not actually even listen to what you have to say. So yeah, it is your responsibility as the investor. Don't just think, hey, I presented my offer. It's out there in the ether. That's not presenting an offer, okay? Presenting an offer is they hear your offer. Presenting an offer is not, I called the agent, I said, oh, I'll offer 105, and they said, okay, and hung up the phone. That's not presenting an offer. So that's awesome, John, that you're actually getting down to these sellers so that they can actually hear what you have to say. That's super powerful.
100%.
Super great.
And I love what you said about getting in front of the seller to present the offer. I think that goes across the board, not just with agents, but literally everybody. Don't allow a seller to say that they're going to call you back, ever. Never say, okay, well, reach out if you need me or anything like that. They're going to forget about you. You know what I'm saying? There's so many distractions. You pick up your phone, you scroll on TikTok or Instagram for 5 minutes, you forget what you ate for breakfast. You know what I'm saying? That's just the world that we live in. So you got to really figure out, when are you going to get on the phone? When are we going to reconnect? You got to schedule that follow-up. You got to be the one to take control of your life, bro. And that's really, when it comes down to business and everything else, you got to be the one. You have to be the driving force to make these deals happen. And I'm sure this was you guys in that same situation when this guy finally just happened to crawl back to you guys, when you had to be the one to follow up with these agents. I'm sure you have multiple offers on this property that you were fielding, and there were contingencies and all sorts of different stuff that you were looking into. Okay, what offer am I going to take? This and that. I'm sure there was some sort of complications, but you have to be the one in the driver's seat to actually make shit happen. And so when it comes down to an agent, the reality is they might have this fiduciary agreement, but people do things because they benefit from them. And that's not to say everybody. I won't say everybody, but generally, people do things because they benefit from it. And that's just a reality of the world. It's a cold reality, and it's one that I've recently accepted. But it is the reality, bro. And so to really get an agent to do what you want, you have to incentivize them to do what you want. And what does that mean? Oh, I got to give them more money. Oh, well, would you be open to dual agency or representing both me and the seller, and we could pay you more commission? Why do you guys think that Jerry Norton talks about that double dip strategy all the time when he's presenting these 50 cent on the dollar cash offers? Mm-hmm. The agent presents it because the agent is going to benefit more than if they were to accept an offer from, say, an investor that's represented by another agent. So it's stuff like that. How is it that we can play to somebody else's interests to then get what we want out of the negotiation. And I don't think that's something that a lot
100%.
of people talk about, because negotiation isn't about figuring out how you get what you want. It's about figuring out how you can give somebody what they want while getting what you want.
Exactly, exactly, 100%. A lot of these people that you're dealing with in a traditional real estate transaction, honestly, I can't trust them as far as I can throw them, and I'm not very strong. So, I like this last deal that we did. Um, having the this is another lesson I learned. I learned a couple lessons. But having a connection that you actually trust and are confident in, it for us it was the agent. I was fairly confident in the agent. There were some things that, maybe he could have done different, but I was very confident that he was able to get that property sold. And the value of that is seriously like immeasurable, because we had a moment where the buyer's agent was timing us out and ghosting us while we were under contract, and we didn't do the research. Our agent did a little bit of digging, and that agent, the buyer's agent that was timing us out, had a very, very conveniently similarly priced property 2 hours in the same area on the market. So we were thinking, is this agent seriously trying to time us out, lose their seller their earnest money, and then steer them towards their own listing? So we literally had to go behind the agent and have our attorneys call the buyer directly and say, hey, look, I don't know if your agent is telling you this, but you are about to lose $2,000. So please, please, please have your agent reach out to us. And all they had to do was sign, I think it was an extension that they asked for, by the way. So they were about to lose out on so much money. These people, probably the worst buyers we've ever worked with, but I could go on and on about that. Point is, yeah, you have to be the one to take charge. Nobody else is going to take charge. Like throughout the whole transaction, you better be calling the attorney. You better be calling your agent. You better be calling the seller. Make sure everybody is on the same page as you, because you're going to find out, one way or another, that maybe they weren't on the same page with you the whole time. Maybe the seller gets to the closing table and they thought that because they signed a contract for 100,000 and they owe a mortgage for 80, that they're walking away with 100,000. You don't know what to expect out of people. So be the one to take charge and make sure everybody is on the same page. If I'm calling somebody in a transaction to the point where they start getting annoyed, that's how I know that I've called them enough. Okay? So you have to make sure that everybody is on top of things. Okay? You just have to be the one to take charge. And then another thing I learned doing this novation is, I don't know if anybody in here does a lot of novations, it's pre-qualification versus pre-approval. Huge, huge, huge mistake we did. This should have been a $100,000 novation. It was a $72,000 novation. Now, I'm not complaining. That's still a lot of money, okay? But it should have been a $100,000 novation. Here's why. We ended up actually taking a lowball offer because the property was sitting for about a week longer than we thought it would. And we saw their pre-qualification letter, and we said, great, this should be good with the lender. They're pre-qualified. No, that's not how that works. We ended up having to extend our closing by a month because they couldn't get underwritten, and they had to come up with $3,000 because for some reason they're buying a almost $300,000 property when they don't have $3,000 to their name. Who knows? I reached out to my friend who's a mortgage loan officer. He said pre-qualification means absolutely nothing. So if you're signing a novation, do not sign a novation unless you have a pre-approval from your buyer. Okay? Because a pre-qualification doesn't mean anything. So that's one thing that I would have done different. We literally got a full-priced offer the day after we signed the lowball, but this is just how things go. You can't beat yourself up over it, right? Hindsight always 20/20. But yeah, those are the two biggest things: pre-approval versus pre-qualification, and then you have to be the one to take charge in these transactions, because people a lot of the time might not be doing what they should be.
100%. Adrian, what would you say to somebody who's just getting started in wholesaling, that maybe just joined REI Rev? What would you say their actionable steps or instructions should be to go and get some leads and maybe a deal in the next 60 to 90 days?
Probably partner up with somebody who has the time and is willing to kind of give you some, I guess, some personable advice and kind of see what other people that are doing successful and kind of follow in their footsteps. And I would just say, make sure you just give it everything you have. It's like you're first getting started, trying to get that first deal. And I mean, I would say those are a couple good things.
Yeah, the value of a connection, right? Somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Someone who knows what they're doing, you can connect with and hear. I mean, that's what I did.
Mhm.
And look where it got me. Whether or not you think I'm in a good spot is up to you. But yeah, I mean, the value of a connection, it's huge. Leverage it, guys. There's hundreds of people around you in this Discord server that are, actually doing this business, actually closing deals. So reach out to people because people want to work with you. So that's good advice, Adrian. That's very good advice.
For sure.
Well, man, this is.
There's definitely
Go ahead, man.
there's definitely enough money out here to be made for everybody. So don't be scared to partner up with people and work together.
Yes, sir. I know that this has been an amazing ride, man. It's really awesome to see you guys really make this happen. There's a lot of people. We see it all the time. A lot of people come and go. A lot of people say they really want to do this, and then a couple weeks go by, maybe a few months, and we don't see them anymore. But you guys are definitely some of the select few, the revolutionaries in here that have really made it happen, man. So definitely take the proceeds from this and don't quit. I know Jacob was on the fence, man.
Yeah,
He was really
I
on
was
the
so
fence.
on the
Crazy.
fence.
But
Crazy.
always hold on to that hope, whether it's wholesaling, novations, creative, something, man. You guys are in this business. You guys are in the arena. So keep fighting. I hope to see you guys here forever, man. I hope that you guys really stay committed to this through the good and the bad,
Yes,
man.
sir.
Because just like you guys were saying, it is really feast or famine out here. And I know that it's not going to be that way forever. I'm confident that it will get to a point where whether the market shifts or something happens that we figure out some sort of different way to market direct to these sellers. Like Adrian was saying, he's going after the people that have that motivation. And now, since he's figured that out, since he's put enough time in to actually figure out what he needs to do to go and find these motivated people, this is that turning point where the business really starts to take off. So don't give up, especially for the people that are out there that are maybe just getting started. Never give up. What would you guys say to the people that are just getting started?
You have to be prepared for it to suck. It's going to suck. All right. You might end up dirt poor. You might want to quit. I wanted to quit. And you always hear people say this stuff and you're like, oh, not again. It's real. Okay. You hear it, but you don't process it. Okay. You're going to want to quit. It's going to suck. It's feast or famine. These are things that people aren't really, I think, paying as much attention to. You need to realize it's going to suck, okay? Most deals are going to be non-deals. Most sellers are not going to want to work with you. You're going to have people yell at you over the phone, cuss you out. You're going to have a deal at the closing table. Somebody's going to back out and you're going to want to put your head through a wall. Keep going. Okay, if this is really something that you can see yourself doing long term, and it doesn't even have to be long term, maybe it's just a means to an end. I know for me and Adrian, we want to get into building a portfolio where we don't have to be doing wholesaling long term. But whatever your goal is, keep at it. Okay, there's people that have been through similar situations as you. All right, don't believe all these gurus on Instagram that you're seeing. Don't compare yourself to other people. There's people in here that are, 17 years old making 3 times as much money as me. Whatever. I don't care. I'm not the one doing the most deals, the most volume, but I'm doing it. And keep going. Keep yourself motivated. Get into a routine, and you're going to have success eventually. And leverage your connections, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, I would just say literally don't stop, because as soon as you quit, then that's when you're unsuccessful. Yeah, I mean, I know people that took literally a year to get their first deal. It doesn't matter how long it takes, as long as you don't quit and it's all going to be a learning process. Everybody learns at their own speed. Some people have skills getting into wholesaling that other people don't even have, so their learning curve is faster. Just don't stop, and you'll be successful.
100%.
Wise words.
Look at where you were, 6 months ago, a year ago. I have been super unmotivated recently, right? But then I look and I say, where was I 2 years ago? Well, I'd prefer to be here. Okay. As bad as it gets, look at where you were 2 years ago. Would you prefer to be there or here? More than likely, you'd prefer to be here. So that's just kind of the mindset you have to have.
Hey, I wanna share something that really helped me, because look, I love that these guys are really telling the truth about this business. It is feast or famine. That's just a reality, man. Especially when you're first getting started and you're building up momentum, you're building that skill set, you're building your experience. But when you're taking L's in one arena, it might be wholesaling, it might be business, it might be whatever. Get a win in something that you're good at, something else that you have a passion for. You know what I'm saying? Whether that's something, whatever that is for you. If you're losing in one arena, the fastest way to turn the tables and build momentum is to get a win somewhere else. Get a win under your belt. Remind yourself that you are capable, that you can do what you are setting out to accomplish, and stick with it. Stick with the process that you decided to commit yourself to. Understand that this is a lifelong journey. Like people that are really in real estate, they're in real estate and they're not in anything else. They're not going after drop shipping, they're not going after crypto, they're not going after the stock market. They don't care about any of that. We care about buying and selling real estate. We care about building properties, building portfolios, and that's what we're here to do. And so I just find this to be just the most amazing opportunity. The fact that a community like this even exists, man, it's just so crazy to see. Just like Jacob was talking about, look back 6 months, 12 months, 24 months. Where were you 2 years ago? Versus where we're at today. I'm happy to be where I'm at today, and I'm sure that you two are,
100%.
are happy to be out where you're at today, man. Having just cashed that $70,000 check, man, that big deal.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
and so, man, my only advice, especially for anybody that, that maybe they're getting that they're working towards that first deal. Once you get that first deal, I'm telling y'all, do not increase your cost of living. That is the number one mistake. Maintain your cost of living, whatever that is. Don't start balling out. You know what I'm saying? Don't start balling out. Take care of your debt. You know what I'm saying? Because the debt racks up sometimes. You got to take that risk. That's the reality of the business of the real world. But keep that cost of living the same, man. Try to reinvest into whatever it is that's going to bring you another deal. Whether that's your marketing, your cold calling, your SMS, your inbound leads. That's really the best way to spend your money, man. So I'm excited for you guys. I see you guys have so much potential, man, just even in a short amount of time, just to see the moves you guys are making. So I can't wait to see your journey unfold.
Thank you, John. And we're going to keep in touch for sure. And anybody who needs to connect, you could reach out to me and Adrian. We do novations. Adrian is getting into foreclosures. Feel free to send us a message. John does a lot of creative stuff, subject to. You can reach out to him for anything like that as well. And yeah, thank you for having us, John.
100%. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the #1 most valuable real estate community in existence. If you haven't already, you need to invite somebody you think will benefit from being in proximity with us. Send them that link, discord.gg/REI Rev. Jacob, Adrian, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you guys on. You two are revolutionary.
Thank you, John.
Yes, sir.
100%, man. Y'all take care, man. Stay blessed, and let's stay in touch, everybody. Make sure if you guys are seeing anything in Macon, Georgia, surrounding cities, these are your guys. Get in touch, man.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Absolutely. Take care, everybody.
All right.